This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum. I was waiting until the jingle had faded out. It's wonderful to be back again on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. And I'm wondering how you've all been with this surprise of a shower that we've had during the day. It's great to be back. I am your very own Dr Shabina Asad Qayyum on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. And I broadcast this show to you on the latest in health and emotional well-being and issues that relate to our health and well-being, not just in the Asian community, but all over. And I try and get the best guests as well to introduce you all to those aspects and topics that affect all of us or some of us or those that need to be spoken about a little bit more. So I hope you're doing okay. What have you been up to? It's been the start of the week. I know that my weekend has been very busy. In fact, I've been sharing with the whole world and I've been trying to gain a bit of sympathy about the fact that I fell last week on Friday. And I felt ever so sorry for myself. In fact, my colleague, Sam, she was getting out the other end of the car and I was yapping away. As you can tell, I love talking. And I fell down and I got up straight away to save myself embarrassment before anybody saw me. And I said, Sam, I fell. And she turned around and she said to me, oh, I wondered where your head had disappeared to. That was great. But I got cleaned up. I'm still in a bit of pain, but we're still here and we carry on and we soldier on. So yeah. Thank you for your thoughts. It's great to have you all. I'm going to be talking about a special topic which I will introduce you to shortly. But in the meantime, I do have to remind you of the drill. And that is, if you want to call and talk to us, you can ring us on 01733 602 133. Or you can text us via WhatsApp on 07411 191062. And of course, you can comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, X, which is the new name for Twitter, or Twitch. Now, I'm going to move on to my shout-outs. And for those of you who know, I'm a GP who practices at a wonderful practice called Bretton Park. Yes, I may be biased, but I'm happy being biased. They're a great team. And today, my shout-out is for the most amazing receptionist on the planet, and her name, ladies and gentlemen, is Karen Bell. And I tell you why I like Karen, because Karen tries to help everyone, and Karen goes out of her way to help everyone. And when I first started at that practice, Karen went out of her way to make me feel welcome. Karen is the type of work colleague that you have. Everybody needs a Karen Bell in their lives. Everybody needs a Karen Bell at their workplace as well, because she keeps the atmosphere chirpy, cheerful. She will always have a smile on her face, and she will go out of her way to help everybody, including the patients. And poor Karen didn't feel very well today, but she has always been in I won't say the crack of dawn, but early in the morning, even before me. And she opens up the practice and she welcomes all of us and she helps all of us. And today, for the first time, I noticed that Karen was poorly and she went home. And I've decided I'm going to dedicate my show to her today. So Karen, I hope you're listening, because I did tell Antoinette and Danny on my way out that I was going to give you this shout out, all right? So I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you get well very soon and that I see you with your chirpy, smiley self very soon, because you certainly are one big star. So if you're listening, please all remember Karen in your wishes and wish her well, and I hope she gets well soon. Now, back to today's topic, and I am absolutely privileged to have one wonderful trailblazer of a young lady here with me today. And our topic this week is going to be about drug and alcohol addiction. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it today with none other than Alia Shirazi, who has joined me from Aspire. She's a community connector who has joined Aspire. They're doing some fantastic work, and we're part of one project where we are looking to increase uptake and awareness, more awareness within the Muslim and Asian community in Peterborough, the South Asian community here in Peterborough. And you may recall that last year I had Raja Rashid Ilyas, who came in with his wonderful son, and we spoke about it. And, you know, it's really good to revisit these topics after every so often, especially when we see incidents like drug addiction that's on the increase and on the rise, and the societal problems that are associated with that. So I'd like to welcome Alia. Alia, welcome.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you.
Thank you.
And we've been having such a wonderful chat beforehand.
We have.
So I'm very grateful that you are here. What I'm going to ask you is, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, who are you? What brought you here? How did you develop this interest? So the floor is yours, Alia.
Okay. I started studying criminology when I was about 16. And I just had a general interest in societal factors that contribute to people committing crime. And then I joined Aspire on the criminal justice team, working with people that would benefit from more intensive work. They're more entrenched in the criminal justice system. And yeah, now I'm doing the community connector job, which is focused on engaging ethnic minority communities with our service and trying to empower people to, refer themselves into service and just generally raise awareness about drug and alcohol addiction and just open up the conversation in ethnic minority communities.
That's great. And what galvanised your interest into this particular field? I know that you've got a background of criminology. It's wonderful that you have. And as somebody who's a young Asian female in an area that is rather underexplored, and people would rather think that actually a male would be more inclined to going into this area. I think that you're incredibly brave and incredibly inspiring, I must say that.
Thank you.
And what galvanised your interest into this particular area? Obviously the criminology aspect, which is great, having a great background with that. But this particular area, what was it that galvanised your interest and wanted you to do this line of work?
Yeah, I think I just generally had a passion to support marginalised groups.
Yeah.
And initially I wanted to support people when they come out of prison. So that was kind of how I came into substance use. And then I just, in working in this field, I just gained more and more interest in it. And I was particularly interested in supporting ethnic minority communities. After my studies, I did a study into how Black and brown people experience policing in the UK and how different forms of oppression shape people's experiences. And ultimately it came down to race as the bottom line a lot of the time. So that was kind of how I came to be interested in supporting ethnic minorities specifically, especially around accessibility into services like ours, where there may not be as much conversation about it in certain communities. So yeah, that was...
Yeah, and we've shared a lot of meeting platforms, haven't we? And I think one of the things that we speak about when we talk about areas like drug and alcohol addiction is to have the ability to normalise those conversations.
Yeah.
That anybody can have the ability to go home and start talking about these things, especially within the South Asian community. And especially because we're seeing an increase of it. You said something really interesting, Alia, about bottom line being that there are some influences, obviously, with race. Has it, through your own studies, become apparent the reasons for that? I know that there has been sort of, a connection with, like you say, criminality, policing, etc., and ethnic minorities being implicated. Why do you think that is? Is that due to discrimination, would it be? Or is it due to the fact that there could be a lack of socioeconomic opportunity? These are really interesting conversations to have, and I think that they're relevant, aren't they, in today's society, especially in the youngsters?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything you mentioned. Obviously, discrimination is a massive issue, but a lot of times ethnic minorities don't have the same accessibility to resources. There just is a lack of presence of certain services in those areas. There's a lot of different factors like class, age, gender that all come into shape a person's experience. But what I found through my studies was no matter the class, age, gender, people had a similar experience. And I actually asked people what they thought the reason for that was. And a lot of people did say discrimination, lack of opportunities, and lack of knowledge in those areas, which, I think, again, just comes down to not having those conversations and people not trying to actively put themselves in those areas where people are already, where ethnic minorities are already existing in community.
And following on from that, we see a lot of increased population of ethnic minorities in bigger cities. For example, you see inner city London, or you see Birmingham, or you see Manchester, or Leeds, for example. Are issues with drug addiction more prevalent in where you see a higher concentration of ethnic minority people, or is that something that, needs to be explored further, in your opinion?
I think it does need to be explored further. The thing is, with substance misuse doesn't discriminate. It can happen to absolutely anyone. It's just whether we're acknowledging the problem in certain communities. I think in bigger cities, maybe the services are more accessible. They're a bit more culturally sensitive. I know in places like Birmingham, they have 12-step programs that are based on Islam. So there are places that are trying to do more with ethnic minority communities, but I don't know whether there's more of an issue in those communities or just whether it's more recognised and easier for people to speak about.
Yeah, and it's good that you've mentioned this 12-step program in Birmingham, and that's where obviously these initial questions are to sort of give ourselves a bit of a warm-up. Tell us what you do in Aspire. What does a day's work involve, with Alia being on the front, seeing people and clients? Tell us a little bit about that.
So in Aspire, we have loads of different teams. So the different teams cover different areas. They might be substance specific. So we have an opiate team, a non-opiate team, a dependent alcohol team, but then we also have a team for under 18s where they outreach more and they go into schools. We have a family safeguarding team that will work with families that have social services involvement. Maybe the parents are using substances and we can kind of support them through whatever social services involvement there is and support the children as well. We have a homeless and rough sleeping outreach team. So we try and cover everything. But for me, I kind of have one foot in the criminal justice team and then one foot in my project. So at the moment, my focus is going out to where people already are. So going to services that are already established, places people are already comfortable, and just going and having an informal drop-in session to just hand out some leaflets, let people know what the service is, how they can refer themselves in, answer any questions about drug and alcohol use. And that's kind of been my focus, and trying to encourage people that do have a treatment need to come into the service. So for me, it's completing assessments where people are already comfortable and then working with them, especially if there's a cultural barrier for them to access the service. I work with them until they're a bit more comfortable to move on to the wider team and kind of integrate with the wider service.
That's good.
So yeah,
That's a good buffer, isn't it? And Alia, do you see females from the Asian community as well?
We do. I have worked with more men from the Asian community. I can't really say why that is because I haven't really seen the women to ask these questions, but that's kind of one of my focuses in going to places where people already are, to ask them what is preventing them from coming in. Do they even know that the service exists, or do you know how to identify that you might have a treatment need and when to come in? I think a lot of times people might leave it until it's really affecting their lives negatively before they come in to get help. So it's kind of trying to get people to come in the beginning stages, so their lives don't get too chaotic before they come in to get support. But yeah, I think with the women, I can't say why, but I do see less women self-referring. I think more women come in through GP referrals and things like that. So yeah,
that's how it would be. And please share with our listeners how to access your service, because that's the mainstay of it, really, isn't it? A lot of people will know about Aspire. However, not many people, surprisingly, know that they can just self-refer. So how does it take place with Aspire? So you've somebody who's found, or their family members have found, especially within the Asian community, a loved one has now found themselves addicted to, for example, heroin, or found that they are drug abusing. What do they need to do to come to you?
Okay, so if you want to self-refer, you can just come into the service. We're an open access voluntary service. So if you've identified that a loved one has a treatment need, it would kind of, we can't force people into treatment. So they would need to want treatment and refer themselves. So you can literally just turn up at the building, tell us that you need some support. We'll take some basic details from you, contact details, do a consent form on how you're happy for us to contact you. And then we have an engagement team that are there for walk-in assessments. So if somebody is available, they will do your assessment there and then. Sometimes we don't have capacity to do that, so we would look to book you an assessment or ask someone from the wider team to support, or at least come and have a chat with you so you don't leave the building without anything. But yeah, it's that easy. Just, well, it takes a lot to walk into the building, but it is just turning up. You can give us a call as well, but normally it's a bit quicker if you come in.
Sure.
But yeah, it's that easy. Or you can ask a GP or another professional you're involved with to refer you if you'd rather do that.
Yeah, because I've seen your assessments are really quite extensive, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
You are. So talk us through an individual who has found that they are now addicted to heroin. They've seen that they've lost. I mean, I'm thinking about the typical patient that I've seen who's become addicted to heroin, thrown out of their house, has dependents, so obviously lost their children in a way, and is now homeless. They'd walk to the door. You're located on Bridge Street, and walk in and say to the reception, I need help, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And somebody's then able to assess them. Talk us through what your management plan would be with this individual.
Yeah, so they would come in, we would do our full assessment. So that would include an alcohol audit, so measure your alcohol use and how risky it is. Depending on the score you get, we would then do another alcohol audit that is called a SADQ, that measures your dependence on alcohol. And then our assessment would include asking you about your substance use, physical health, mental health, your social situation, children. We cover everything that we can think of. And we would offer you a BBV test, so tests for Hep C, Hep B and HIV. And we would offer naloxone as well, which is an opiate overdose reversal kit. So we normally offer one to everyone, whether they've used an opiate or not. And then following your assessment, depending on what the person wants, we would kind of try to establish what their treatment goal is. Not everybody's goal is abstinence. Generally with heroin, people want to get on an opiate prescription. So we prescribe opiate substitution prescriptions. We have doctors and prescribers in the service. So following your assessment, we would book you an assessment with one of our clinical team, and they would come up with a plan on how to manage medication. They would talk you through the options. We have 3 different options, and we would start you on a lower dose, review it after a week, and then once we found your optimal dose, that's kind of when we focus more on the psychosocial interventions. So with any substance use, there's a mental, the dependence is kind of more mental with some substances. So the things that we don't offer a clinical support with is the non-opiate substances. So anything that's not an opiate, or if you're not alcohol dependent, it would all be psychosocial interventions. So it would consist of one-to-ones and some group work, and it's just working around shifting your pattern of thinking around your substance use, and identifying what your treatment goal is and coming up with a plan on how you can reach that goal. A lot of people haven't really thought about where they want to be with their substance use, particularly with things like heroin. If you've been using heroin for 20 years, you might not be able to imagine life without it, to think of where you want to be in 5 years. So that's the kind of things that we try and focus on, is helping people set goals towards recovery, and then coming up with kind of an individual plan on how we'd support you with it.
I can't tell you how heartwarming it is, Alia, when you talk about this, because I can count the number of times I've yet to see somebody who has said that they have engaged with Aspire and have come off drugs and say that they are clean. I've yet to see somebody who says that they are clean and have gone back on drugs. Maybe that's just because of my exposure, but it is so heartwarming to hear that. And they proudly say, I was addicted to drugs and I've been clean for 2 years. And I have a lot of patients say, oh, Dr. But I've been clean for 4 months, or I've been clean for 6 years. And that really is empowering to them, isn't it?
Yeah. I think as well, with CGL, we offer opportunities to our clients as well. Once you've kind of completed treatment, you can go on to volunteer with us, and then you can go on to get a paid role. We have paid staff that came through the service years ago. I think it's really encouraging for people to see, so this person has been where you are and this is where they are now, and it's possible for you to do the same. It's possible for you to have a life without the substance, and just be quote unquote normal.
Yes, of course.
So
incredibly empowering. And do you have a high rate of people that go on to become abstinent, for free from opioids, or clean from opioids, or do you have a lot of people that fall out of the program? What's your experience been like?
It depends on the individual, obviously, and how long you've been using the substance and what your lifestyle is like. We do have a lot of people that unfortunately drop out, or they are involved in crime and kind of are in and out of prison a lot. So it's, with opiates, I think it's quite a long journey compared to some of the other substances. Some people could be in treatment for quite a long time, but the idea is that once we've got you to your optimal dose on your medication and you're not using on top, and we're kind of working with you around your mindset around the substance use, we would start to reduce the medication. We don't want people to be, I'm on Ficeptone and now I'm going to be on it for life. We want people to slowly reduce, come off, and then when people are what we consider a successful completion, so it would be they've achieved their recovery goal. We do have ongoing support for them, so we close them to recovery support. You can still access groups and have one-to-ones, but you're not in structured treatment anymore.
Yeah.
And we have a recovery hub as well for people that are abstinent, so they can still kind of have that community.
Wonderful. Well, we have now got 45 seconds until the break, and it's been a great show. We will talk in more detail after the break in the second half of the show, and also questions that have come through. It's been great talking to you. It's been very insightful to see the work that you are doing. Like I say, incredibly inspirational as well. So I really am. I think this is great for young people out there who aspire to have a look at this, to try and help others as well. It's an incredibly rewarding role to have.
It is, yeah.
So well done for that. So in the next 10 seconds, listeners, do join us. Don't go away. That's the reason why we had the late show, so that nobody has an excuse, and come back after the break on the Body, Health and Mind Show.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Craving authentic Desi flavors? Look no further than Desi Restaurant. From midday until 1 in the morning, enjoy our homemade specialties that will transport your taste buds. Indulge in tantalizing papri chaat and savor the rich chersi kadahi. Treat your friends to our fresh 1 kilogram chersi lamb handi. Plus, get 2 12-inch pizzas for $11.95. Located at 298 Lincoln Road, we deliver from lunchtime until 1 a.m. Call 01733 555 795 now to order and experience Desi Restaurant's flavors.
Worried your tenants could stop paying their rent during this cost of living crisis? Next Move Estate and Letting Agents are offering landlords 12 months rent in advance. You'll get your rent paid for the whole year in advance. No strings attached. Too good to be true? It really is that simple. So get in touch with us today for this extremely limited offer. Call Next Move now on 01733 641 642 to find out how we can help.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
Peterborough. Who said good quality fried and grilled chicken has to be expensive? At Sam's, we take pride in every piece of chicken that leaves our kitchen. Just one bite of our chicken or burgers is all it takes to realise we are the best. Visit us at our brand new place at 333 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PF. Or order a delivery through Just Eat, Uber or Deliveroo. Sam's, the home of great tasting chicken for over 30 years.
Are you a savvy shopper searching for the best food deals? Look no further. Adams Cash and Carry can help you save big. We're not just a food wholesaler for takeaways and restaurants. We also welcome household customers at our warehouse in Westwood, Peterborough. Visit our website and enjoy wholesale prices on everything from drinks to flour, rice to burgers and much more. To shop, go online and collect in store. Visit adamscashandcarry.co.uk today to start your savings spree.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 at Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in for takeaway or delivery. Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Right, so Assalamu alaikum. This is your very own Dr Shabina Asad Qayyum for the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. And before the break, we were talking to the wonderful Alia Shirazi, who is from Aspire, who are Peterborough's very own community drug and rehabilitation service. And Alia is a community connector there. And she was talking me through these wonderful treatment plans that she undertakes and her colleagues undertake, and how exactly an assessment takes place. And that we have a project that we're embarking upon where we have meetings after every so often to try and tap into the South Asian community and how we can increase their uptake. And Alia is incredibly inspiring, really she is. I mean, I've been speaking to her before the show as well, and I just admire your background as well, Alia. Honestly, really, you are. You're an inspiration to many young girls out there who should look at this actually as a way to try and help people within the community. And we have a few comments. So we've got Muhammad Abdullah Rizwan. Nice show and nice topic and helpful program. Well, thank you so much. And Mr. David Garner. Now, Mr. David Garner is a very special listener. In fact, you're my star listener, David, okay? Because what David does is he adds a little bit of a spark to the show. He's great at cracking jokes.
Okay.
And during COVID, he is the only person who would lift everybody's spirits by writing these jokes on Facebook. And I started to think, well, this is amazing. You'd be feeling down as medics, seeing people unwell and very poorly as a result of COVID. And sometimes people would lose their lives. Mm-hmm. So David would keep us all really actually would tickle our insides with his jokes. So he puts a joke on my show every single week. So I'm going to read it out. Okay. So here's David's joke. I've become addicted to drinking brake fluid. It's not a problem. I can stop anytime. David, stop it. It's wonderful. That's a great joke. Thank you so much. You are an absolute star. And then we've got Brother Faisal Mahmood. Much needed topic. Great show. So thank you so much, Brother Faisal. And thank you all for your engagement as well. So Alia, coming back to, obviously, you've spoken to us about receiving sort of service users and how you assess them and sometimes dropout rates, etc. and everything. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how sometimes patients come up. We speak to, obviously, as a clinician, I will speak to people who are addicted and will say, well, Aspire is the place that you go to. And we'll often see people who have been to Aspire and they drop out for whatever reasons and say, oh no, well, I'm not going back to Aspire to get again because I didn't get any help. And why do we see, what are the different scenarios or the reasons why people drop out of therapy? What is it? Have you identified as a team? Have you spoken about the reasons why people then disengage? Is it influences again?
Yeah, I think again it's down to the individual. From the criminal justice team, what I saw was just, it's really difficult to get out of that lifestyle, especially if that's been your life for such a long time. A lot of people have been exposed to drug use since they were children, and it's just kind of a normal part of life for them. Yeah, I think with any substance use, it comes with a chaotic lifestyle, especially with things like opiates, alcohol, and it depends on the level of your use as well. But yeah, people drop out for different reasons. Maybe they don't want to engage with the support that we offer. Sometimes, unfortunately, people just want the prescription and don't want to engage with the group work, which is a massive part of what we do. Yeah, there's loads of different reasons, but we try to cover as many as we can. We do a lot of joint work with different services. So we might do joint work with a GP. We have workers that are based in GP surgeries. We have, people trying to cover all areas, really. We work with mental health services. We work with housing, the council. There's different projects that are loads of services coming together to try and support people more fully, more well-roundedly.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I've got a comment from Brother Faisal Mahmood. I think Aspire should do a weekly show specifically on topic of addiction and other linked topics. There's so much that can be discussed and shared to educate parents, help people, help others. That's a really valid point, actually. It's something we can actually take back, isn't it?
Yeah.
If that suggestion is there, because we all work here in the capacity of volunteers. And when you're a volunteer, you can do, say, a weekly show or even bi-weekly if you can sort of after every fortnightly, actually. That would be good. And I think that this is great, because the other thing that I was going to say, and thank you for that comment, Brother Faisal. The other thing I was going to say is what we were talking about before the show, wasn't it, Alia? The fact that sometimes you will, and this we're going to have a bit of sort of, I think, forthright conversation now with our listeners, because we really want to bring that message home, that a lot of the time within the South Asian community, what we will see is that people will identify that they have a young one or somebody or a loved one who is either addicted to drugs or alcohol. And with that, you obviously get the hallucinations. Sometimes you'll get a lot of psychological manifestations as well. And families will put that down to, mental health issues, or, he's got a mental health problem and he just needs antipsychotics and he just needs medicine, or he just needs to be admitted into the psychiatric unit or sectioned. Yeah. That's not the case. They have to own it, don't they? They have to own it and acknowledge it, that this is a reality.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time it's just you don't want to acknowledge that this problem exists in that community, and it exists everywhere. A lot of times people will use because they feel, or they'll be stuck using because they don't feel like they can have those conversations. I think it's just opening up that dialogue with people, helping them to feel more comfortable to say, I've got this issue and I do need support, and will you support me? Because you can't force someone into treatment. You can't force them to come off of drugs if they don't want to. It just doesn't work. I think taking a softer approach is usually the best way. But we do have a support group for families of people that are struggling with addiction. So it was what we'd call affected others. So if it's your husband, wife, parent, someone you relate to, just a friend, we do have a support group for family members, and that's, I think, quite nice for people to have that community of people that understand what it's like to try and support someone with a substance use issue.
That's important too.
But a lot of times people do just want to force people into treatment, and it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. You're right. And equally, it is very important to also understand that if somebody is suffering from the physical or psychological repercussions as a result of drug addiction, fixing that drug addiction will fix that psychological repercussions as well. And all too many times, I've seen it in my line of work, and I'm sure you do as well, I have conversations with loved ones or family members who will say, Doctor, he doesn't need, or she doesn't need Aspire, or doesn't need any community. It's not drugs. It's not drugs. It's because they've got mental health problems.
Yeah.
Or somebody has done black magic on them. I get to hear that quite a lot as well. Somebody has done black magic. Somebody has done what they call taweez on them. And it is so important that we take ownership over those aspects.
Yeah, I've had clients that have been like, my parents are going to send me to Pakistan to stop using, and it's like, okay, but when you get to Pakistan, what support is there for you, there's nothing. So then you're going to come back to the same lifestyle, the same triggers, the same access to the substance. It's just not going to solve anything. And a lot of times I think people use as a result of mental health issues, maybe they didn't get the support for the mental health issue to begin with, so they start using this substance, and now they've realised this makes me feel good, so I'm going to use this to cover up this problem, but then that becomes a problem. So what we try and do is look at the root of your substance use. Why are you using? What made you start using? What are your triggers? Things like that. And that's why it's really important to do joint work with. We do a lot of work with the dual diagnosis team. So they work with people that have a mental health issue and a substance misuse issue. And that's really helpful for a lot of people. I've also been working with the Lantern Initiative a little bit recently, and they've got some Muslim counselling that they've said that I can refer clients to, and I know that one of my clients has found it really helpful. So it's trying to address the root of the issue rather than just kind of sweeping it under the carpet or trying to make an excuse because of the shame around it. So I think, having conversations like this will hopefully take away some of the shame around the issue and empower more people to come forward and get help.
Yeah, and there is no shame, is there? I think that it's important to acknowledge and understand that once a service user comes within your remit of care, that all their details are kept. There's a strict adherence to confidentiality. Yeah. And it's important to get that message out there, that there is strict adherence to confidentiality. Danny Beasley, fabulous show. So pleased you said about it earlier. Oh, Danny, I'm so happy that you're here. I can't wait to see you. Hopefully at work on Wednesday, and Karen as well. That's what we need. So thank you for joining the show. And obviously, apart from that, the other thing, Alia, is, and this is something that you touched on about earlier, and I know that you're doing a bit of outreach and everything, and you work mostly with people who have an opioid addiction, but you're talking about these projects going on in schools as well with young people. Yeah. How important is it for young people? Are we seeing a rise in the use of drugs within secondary schools?
Because I don't work in that team, I don't know exactly what statistics are around it. But I know that having a presence in schools so people are educated will definitely make a big difference. I think when I've been doing events and things, we have a drug box and it has fake examples of what different substances might look like, and the kids are coming up with their parents and the kids are going, that's that and that's that, and the parents are horrified. But I'm like, but if your kid knows that this is this and this is what it could do to you and this is the risks involved, they're probably more likely to say no if someone offered it to them, or if they did find themselves using, they would have a point of contact that they feel comfortable with our young people's team being present in schools and places like that. I think just having those people there that it's like, you can talk to us about this, that's what we're here for. I think it's important, and as well it encourages the parents to learn more about substance misuse or just substances in general.
I was just thinking, I studied a subject at med school called forensic medicine, and we would have to study the different poisonous, or they used to call them the lethal dose of substances. And oh my goodness, I remember sort of having to remember the lethal doses of things called atropine and cocaine, and it was really difficult actually to remember all of that. But you've made a really valid point in what you just said, and that was that children, when you take that little box, children will know what's in that box, and parents are horrified. But that's a really good point, that actually if they know what it is, they're more likely to say no if it's being offered to them as well, which is great. And I think down the line it will probably be worth us getting somebody from the team who works in the schools so we can talk a little bit about it, because there's a great deal of need for prevention as well, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what the young person's team is for. They work with young people is anyone under 18. They work with people that are using, but also we do work with people whose parents might be using. So we have teams of people that work with the children of clients and do what we call hidden harm work and things like that, just to give the kids some support and hopefully prevent them from going on to use.
So if anybody's under the age of 18, they can still come to Aspire, is that right? Or do they have to go through?
So you can send a referral, you can contact us and we can put you in contact with the right team, the team leader, and they would handle that independently from the building. So the building is for over 18s only.
Okay.
Just because of safeguarding.
Of course.
But we will work with people under 18 as well. It's just a separate team.
Okay, well, that's reassuring to hear. Now, there are some questions that have been sent to me beforehand, so I can have a look at it. So one of obviously a lot of people like to remain anonymous, have said that I'm really glad that you're doing this show. I think speaking about the issues of drug abuse is really important. I'd also like to stress that within the Asian community, there is a huge stigma around alcohol addiction and that there are many young people, particularly males, that do drink alcohol and the dangers of that as well.
Yeah.
So there is.
Yeah, I think that's another reason that people would probably not come into treatment. That's something that I would consider a cultural barrier, is the shame of kind of having to admit that that's what you're struggling with. But again, there's no shame in what you're coming into the service for. It's all confidential. If you know somebody, if you knew a member of staff, you can be anonymised so that they would never see your file. You'd never be referred to by name. There's so many things that we can do to make people more comfortable. But yeah, just because you feel like I shouldn't be doing this, it doesn't mean you don't get the help. Yeah. And I think you make some really valid points. Do you remember in the beginning of the show, you spoke about Birmingham's sort of, 12 steps, the faith programme. Do you think there is room for us to be able to have such a programme here in Peterborough? And do you think that that kind of programme would help? I think so. I think having more specific projects, like the project that I'm doing, that's kind of what the aim is, to find out what the need is for people. I don't want to assume that just because I'm South Asian that I know what every South Asian person needs or what prevents them from coming into the service. So that's kind of the data that I'm trying to collect at the moment, by going out into the community and saying, what do you think would help you, and what kind of things can we put in place in a one-to-one situation even that would make you feel better supported. I think things like that would definitely be possible as the project grows. I've spoken to a couple of GPs and they've sent me PowerPoint presentations on drug and alcohol from an Islamic perspective. So I think doing joint work with people like that, I know that I've spoken to someone about doing like a presentation in mosques and things like that. So I think, having those culturally and religious specific things would be helpful for a lot of people.
I think so. I think it's a really good initiative actually to have that sort of, the 12, because faith obviously plays a massive part in a lot of people's lives in the city, especially in the Muslim community, and the stigmas that we were talking about largely are connected with that as well, aren't we? And that it's important that people understand that you're not there, nobody's judged when they walk through those doors.
Yeah.
They're really not. And I've got another comment over here that it would be great if we could have more rehabilitation. In other words, when a person has undergone a therapy session and they become clean of drugs or alcohol, is there any opportunity for rehabilitation, or does Aspire provide that?
Yeah, so we do support people in going to rehab facilities, but there's a lot of work that you have to do before going to that facility. Some rehabs you'll be going for 12 weeks, and it's not like you're just going away and chilling out for 12 weeks. Like, it's really difficult. So we do a lot of pre-rehab work. We would check in with you while you're there. We've got people in rehabs at the minute that are going to be visited by their key worker while they're in there, and then we would continue with post-rehab work and recovery support after that. But a lot of people think that drug and alcohol use or drug and alcohol treatment is synonymous with going to a rehab, and it's not. A lot of people don't go down that pathway. I think more people don't go to rehab than do, through us anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's the pathway that people want to follow, we do support them, and we fund for them to go to rehab, and we advocate for them in that way if that's what they want to do.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really good. I've had another comment here, and these are more sort of comments than questions, that I'd like to share on the point that was raised about taking people to their home countries so that they will become clean of drugs. Often these facilities put patients on a whole load of medications, including antipsychotics. And we've seen it firsthand that a lot of money is taken by these facilities. And when these patients return to their loved ones and their families, they're in a worse condition than what they first were.
Yeah. And sometimes you're sending them to a country where the drug of choice is cheaper, and they don't have the support to stay off of it because they don't have a service that they can access. So yeah, it's so counterproductive. I work with people as well that have been like, my parents have said they're going to marry me off because it will sort me out.
Oh my God.
It does nothing but get more people involved in the issue. Yeah.
It's not. And these are, it's so important that we talk about these cultural stigma again, that just because one identifies that your loved one is embroiled in this crisis situation, whether it be drug addiction or alcohol addiction, gambling, which is another addiction that we're talking about more and more nowadays, getting them married to somebody is not the cure for their addiction. And in fact, you have the responsibility of that life of the other person that you are tying your child into.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen.
And I think for the person who's struggling with the substance, it can just be another trigger for them to go further into their substance use. Yeah, it doesn't help anyone involved. But yeah, again, hopefully by talking about it, we'll see that happening less.
We've got to change the narrative, haven't we, Alia? Through shows like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And make sure that we can. And I'd like, for those of you that are listening that have any input with the mosques, I think Alia's brought some great points up in wanting to speak a little bit about this to our youngsters, especially within the Muslim community and in the South Asian community. So hopefully you make those links and you're able to make a difference, which you already are. And in the last couple of the 2 minutes of the show, actually now minute of the show, what is your final message out there to people who are listening to you today, Alia?
I think just don't wait until it's taken over your whole life to come and get treatment. Some people wait until it's kind of consumed every aspect of their life. But if you can identify that you don't want to be doing this anymore and you maybe are not sure how to stop on your own, come in and we'll support you and hopefully kind of stop it from taking over your life.
Well, that's an absolutely wonderful sentiment to pass on to end the show. Alia, I'm so grateful that you gave your valuable time at the end of a very long day. Thank you to Aspire for everything that you're all doing and your whole team.
Yes.
And we look forward to welcoming you sometime again in the future. And for you, my listeners, as well, please join me in saying thank you to Alia for coming on board and talking about this very important topic and the trailblazer of a woman that she is.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And in the meantime, see you again on the Body, Health and Mind Show.
You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for